You don't need more discipline. You actually need less stimulation. This video is brought to you by my HarperCollins published book, Mind Over Explicit Matter. If you're ready to quit porn and reclaim your life mentally and physically, go over to drtrishleigh.com/book. What feels like laziness, low motivation, and especially loss of desire to you is actually a dopamine system that's been hijacked by constant novelty. I'm Dr. Trish Leigh, cognitive neuroscientist, and today we're going to dive into exactly what's happening in that dopamine system and, of course, what you can do to get the control back. Let's start with the hijack. Whether you know it or not, the algorithm has been specifically engineered to not only hijack your attention, but also to keep you neurologically hooked to what you're training the screen to bring you back to. So right here we have the infinite scroll, right? You can see for the first time in history, at the touch of a finger, you can consume any content that you want to. And the content that you go to is then served back to you with infinite possibilities. This, in fact, is the problem. You can see from this image that I put together that it hijacks your nervous system. In red, it indicates that your system becomes completely overstimulated. Then, if you keep doing it, your system tips over into understimulation, two brain patterns that I call strained brain and drained brain. This is how the algorithm hijacks your brain, your mind, and your body. So, in the hijack, today we're going to talk about a concept that's called attention capture. It's also known as saliency. So, you are the one who has trained your algorithm. Everybody's algorithm's different. You've trained your algorithm to serve you where your attention lands and stays. Now, this is a very important distinction because people tell me all the time, they're like, I go on my phone and I can't help it. Beautiful women are everywhere. And I say, I have to stop you there, friend. Guess how many beautiful women I'm served, even though I search the term porn 200 times a week? Zero. I'm served zero because my attention doesn't land there, nor does it stay. This is attention capture. So I've put it together in this image. All those blue strings are the areas of your life that your attention could be put toward. So it could be your job, vocation, something you love doing, your passion, your purpose. It could be your people, your primary relationship with your partner, your 5 beautiful children like mine, or your hobbies like boxing, which I love to do, or maybe it's skiing. My son's going skiing, or perhaps it's riding horses. My beautiful daughter is an equestrian. Those are the blue strands leading you to your life. Now, unfortunately, in today's day and age, that glowing yellow string with that area that's anchored into the prefrontal cortex, well, that's the algorithm. We know scientifically that the screen, that's proverbial, anything you go back to in the screen is a super normal stimulus. And it has been biologically engineered to hijack your attention. Now, it works in this way. They're called supernormal stimuli. They're biologically overpowering, not just attentionally. It feels like attention because of the dopamine surge that it delivers every time you go back. At the top of that continuum is, in fact, explicit matter, especially porn proper. There's novelty, there's hypersexuality. We know scientifically that when you consume explicit matter, it can increase your baseline dopamine levels by 400%. That's a dopamine deluge. As I talk about, in my book, Mind Over Explicit Matter. But you can see here we have gaming illustrated, we have chats, we have hearts and fires and social media and dating apps and even emails, Snapchat, even texts or just messages. They're supernormal stimuli on a continuum from excessive amounts that are just flooding your system down to dopamine spikes. But they are engineered to do so to capture your attention. And unfortunately, taking your attention away from those blue strings into your life. This is an image of my husband, Dr. Cosmos Leigh, with his permission. It's been, we've been on break. We're on break for the holidays. So the regular routines were disrupted. And this is him down in his man cave playing his game, which I believe is called Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And he told me during that break that he could feel the pull back to his game. It was the only thing he wanted to do. But on this day, he made himself turn it off. And I'm going to show you in a few slides what he did instead. And it was really cute. He told me he's been reading my book again and that it inspired him to do this. But gaming is a super normal stimulus. It's under explicit matter. It's up there. Thankfully, when you are on games that are more imaginative and healthy fantasy like this game, it's not violence. It's not unhealthy drama. It's not hypersexualized, but it still is that dopamine hit pulling him back in. What happens in the brain from that hijack of attention capture is what's called D2, dopamine 2 receptor desensitization. So those receptors in your brain, like I showed you last week, last Saturday in the slideshow, I showed you that the reward center and the reward pathways are constantly overstimulated by supernormal stimuli. Now that was the macro level. Now we're going down to the micro level of what these dopamine receptors look like and what they conceptually look like when they become desensitized. So if you keep hitting these receptors with excessively high levels of dopamine, they begin to conk out. They don't work as well anymore. And you know what that means? That means tolerance building and escalation. It means you need more dopamine to feel the same. It begins the chain of dopamine dependency. That's when you feel the urge to go back to the screen. It's your brain saying, I need more dopamine and I'm not getting the same levels because the receptors are burning out. This is how the miswire happens. What it feels like in your life is reduced motivation and desire. This is where sexual arousal dysfunction, what I call SAD, comes into play, namely erectile dysfunction, delayed ejaculation, mostly also comes out of the same brain mechanism. Then that's drained brain. And then if you have premature ejaculation, that can be an aspect that comes from strained brain. That is what I can visualize using brain mapping. I can see how this plays out neurologically, but this is how it plays out in your experience. There's impaired brain signaling. Your brain is the supercomputer that's running your mind and your body. So now if those receptors are burnt out, you're not having the same level of signaling. So you won't be able to think properly or to the optimal full potential levels that you would be able to, and you won't be able to perform that way either with your body, whether that be just in your life or sexually. We have mood disorders. What we're talking about here in the brain, from my perspective, is alpha. When alpha is excessively high, it leads to dopamine desensitization. They're linked together. I'm in the midst of doing a scientifically approved study, which is very exciting, but it can lead to depression, low motivation, on top of anxiety and ADHD symptoms. It also leads to hormonal imbalances. Most of the men that I work with in my one-on-one clinic have been tested for testosterone. They may have lower levels of testosterone, like you can see here, which is validated scientifically, higher levels of prolactin, or their testosterone levels test out fine because their brain is impacted but has not affected their hormonal levels yet. So this is what the overstimulation and the understimulation look like in the brain. We saw it conceptually on that first slide, but on a brain map, it shows up as red, overactivation of the areas and of the brain speeds that are at play. Blue is underactivation. Most of the people I work with have both. You can see that the brain can, in fact, be rewired back to healthy optimal levels. And as always, I want you to know there are scientific studies, many of them, that show this one is an example of a study of the neurobiology of overstimulation, that dopamine receptors down regulate and they reduce. You have reduced sensitivity to natural rewards. That means you have less pleasure, not more. That's what happens with D2 dopamine receptor desensitization. So here's what I want you to know. Attention capture that's happening from the engineered algorithm, it's not a design flaw. It's an intentional exploitation. It's exactly what the makers of streaming services and of apps know scientifically will pull you in, will miswire your brain, so it will be very difficult for you to detach from what you've trained the algorithm to serve you. Now, that can be drama, that can be violence, that can be cat videos, that can be hypersexualized content, especially explicit matter. You've trained it. Your dopamine receptors get desensitized. You have to keep going back. Okay, so now let us look at what happens in the rewire. If you're a person who feels helpless because you struggle with SAD or ED, or if you feel like you'll never break free from the screen, I want you to know there's pragmatic hope, meaning you have to do what you have to do to get your brain to rewire itself. From my perspective, you can use your mind and your body, but that can be difficult because they are distorted from the neurological mechanisms. From my perspective, I help people using advanced technology. But here is your brain hack strategy for the day. In the rewire, it's imperative that you remember that effort comes before reward. If you are giving your brain the reward without the effort, that will lead, especially with supernormal stimuli, it leads to the desensitization. What I want you to do is to resensitize your brain. So you have to give it effort, then reward. Here, the effort is a plunge. It's a cold plunge. And people ask me all the time, are cold plunges a good idea? I will tell you they do stress the nervous system out. So if you're using strained brain, they may not be a great idea for you. That I can see in a brain map, but putting effort in, then getting the reward. So I'm going to show you. Let me show you on the next screen. Effort before reward. Right there. There's the hubs. I actually have a video of this because it's hysterical. My son, Declan's going, what is this man doing? Because what is in his hand is like a mini chainsaw on a stick. And he cut down about, I don't know, 50, maybe even 100 branches from all the trees. We live in a forest, so we have a lot of trees. Obviously, all the leaves have fallen because of the winter. In the video, that man's dangling back and forth on that fence with this chainsaw. But this is what he told me. He felt the pull to play his video games, and it was cold out that day, but he made himself go outside. He ended up staying outside most of the day, cutting down all of those branches. And when he came in, he said he felt this sense of accomplishment and he felt so much better than he feels from his game. So cool. I love that. Effort before reward. So it doesn't have to be a cold plunge. Put in the effort, then give yourself the reward. We always talk about the small wins here. That's why they're so important. But now, of course, if you're really stuck and you can't make yourself go cut down some branches in the cold, then that's how I use technology. It's effortless. When I work with people, when they have their brain map, we see the dysfunction in their brain, then I set neuromodulation protocols to address the exact dysfunction and to adjust the way that the brain is using electrical energy. All you have to do is sit down and do the brain training sessions. It's essential that people know this, that you know this if you are stuck. If you can't make yourself go resensitize those dopamine receptors, I can help you do it using technology. So I kind of think of it like a pacemaker, but we don't have to implant it in your chest. We don't have to implant it in your brain. Clearly, it's a wearable. You wear this technology and it doesn't put anything into your system. It teaches your brain to make more of the healthy brain pattern that allows you to follow those blue threads of attention back into your life, to get back on purpose, to feel your divinely inspired passion again, to reconnect with all the people that you're getting disconnected from, to feel better, be in a better mood, feel happy, not feel anxious, not feel exhausted, not feel depressed. And then, of course, if your intimacy is in the tank, it's because of a dysfunctional brain. If you struggle with sexual arousal dysfunction, your brain is miswired. It is. I can tell you that behaviorally. I can show you it in a brain map. The technology can rewire it for you, with you actually. It synergizes. So the tech exists to get you out of this negative feedback loop. Now, this is an example. I'm going to keep showing you examples here because they're life-changing. They're so cool. This is someone I worked with in February to April, and you can see here that this is a high spike, this purple line, if you can follow my cursor, up at 2.64. This is delta. Delta is sleep mode. It's supposed to be at the highest 1.6. When it's up consistently and when it reaches spikes of 2.64, that's a person who has brain fog. Likely they have arousal dysfunction because their brain's shutting down all the time, and they have cognitive impairments. They can't think. They may have ADHD symptoms. At the same time, this red line is high beta. This is stress and anxiety. It, my friend, it's supposed to be at 0.5, between 0.5 and 0.6, 0.55. So here it's up at 1.5. It's a full point higher, and that is a lot. And you can see this really nice downward trend, and you can see we have averages or medians or means here that are much healthier. You can rewire your brain using the tech. You can also start this process using effort before reward. Effort before reward. Remember that. Okay, so let's sum this up. The hijack this time is attention capture. We have the red X there because explicit matter especially, but all other types of supernormal stimuli, they are hijacking your brain and taking your attention away from your life. This happens through the miswire of dopamine receptor desensitization. They start to dull, you need more, tolerance building and escalation. Then the rewire is entirely possible. Regulation can be restored. You can bring your mind and your body back online by bringing your brain back online, which then will help you to overcome forever sexual arousal dysfunction, loss of intimacy, and motivational numbness. This is what we can do together. So, get out there, effort before reward. If you're looking for help, please go to drtrishleigh.com. This is my website. That button right there, schedule your appointment, leads you to private time with me. I would be so honored to be able to help you on this journey if you're stuck. You don't have to stay stuck. This girl can help you. When you hit that button, you can schedule time with me and we can set you on a course so that this year isn't the same as last year. You have to have a new brain pattern to get new outcomes. And this is the way that we can do it. Use your brain hack strategy for the day. Go rock it out. And if you're struggling, call me. We got this. Okay. Now, as always, I want you to remember this. Bore it into your brain here. Control your brain, or it will, in fact, control you. I'll see you next time.